What's going on, you shark fuckers? Welcome back to Bucket of Chum. I'm your host, Captain Steve. This is the last episode of 2024. I wasn't going to do another episode this year because, I don't know, if you follow me on Instagram, you know there's been a lot of shit going on. But I wanted to do one last episode and just kind of go over 2024. What we're going to do is I'm going to pick a few movies just to talk about, probably my top 3 of the year and the bottom 3 of the year, talk about the guests I had on, talk about the episodes I was a guest on, and then towards the end of the podcast, we'll get into some of the more serious stuff that happened during the year and the past, present, and future, and all that. It's all good news. The podcast is still going on, so that's the gist of it. So if you don't want to stick around for the serious stuff at the end, that's fine. We're going to do the fun stuff right now. So let's just go over some of the movies that I really enjoyed this year. We'll do the top 3 with a couple of honorable mentions, and we'll do the same thing with the bottom 3. You know what, let's start off with the bottom 3, and let's try and end on a little bit more of a positive note this time around, okay? So yeah, my bottom 3 movies of the year. First up, Apex Predators. So I chose this movie because I did a trailer react for the sequel, which looked completely bonkers and just like the dumb CGI flying shark shit that I usually love in these movies. So I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll move this first one up on the list so I can like really get into the sequel. I haven't watched the sequel yet. I usually don't watch the movies unless I'm doing it for an episode, so that way it's kind of fresh, my review, for the most part. I have seen a lot of movies, and I've definitely covered movies I've watched more than once. For the most part, I like to keep these as fresh watches. So, that being said, the first one is horrible. I'm sorry, but it is so goddamn bad. And again, this is why I'm doing this first, because I don't want to end the episode on like a shitty note, but it is so bad. There were barely any sharks in the movie. It was a lot of stock footage. I remember the one long shot of the sun setting or rising. Who the fuck cares? I don't anymore. But that's definitely one that sticks out for sure as being one of the worst I've seen this year, but certainly not the last, because one of the other ones I watched this year was Alien Shark. When you see some of the clips of this movie, you're like, this should be right up Steve's alley. Like, there's a weird alien shark dog, which is probably the best part of the movie. And then there's a bunch of other random shit, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, which, again, usually I'm here for that, but for some reason in this movie, it just did not work for me. Like, I could not get into it. Even with, like, the cast was hot. The men, the women, all of them hot. So that wasn't even enough to bring me in to enjoy this movie enough. And I'm just so baffled because the concept, there's so much you could do with it. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to take this title first and then completely butcher it, I guess. That being said, if a sequel comes out, I mean, yeah, I'll watch it because of the podcast, but I'd also watch it because I'm like, okay, maybe somebody can take this into like a really weird place or something like that. But I don't know. It was just awful. Like, yeah, the CGI is bad. I mean, that's par for the course with pretty much everything I watch. But it wasn't like bad in a fun way, and there was just a lot of times it didn't really make any sense as to what the fuck was happening. So yeah, that's number 2. These aren't in any particular order, but that's just number 2 on the list. Which brings me to the last one, Shark Huntress. I am still infuriated by this movie. I'm infuriated by all the bad movies I watched this year. And I think in particular this year, there was a lot of bad ones. But Shark Huntress, the title suggests that she would be hunting a shark. Which, I mean, technically speaking, she did. But in the end, the sharks weren't really the enemy. And none of it matters, I guess. I don't know, because I have no idea what the fuck was happening. Big Plastic sends a shark after a girl and her mother or something. I don't know. These 3 movies are definitely going to be coming up on C6 Cinema, which if you haven't listened to those episodes, those are awesome, a lot of fun. I've had some great guests on, which I will get into a little bit later. But yeah, basically I take a bad movie that I've watched, a particularly bad movie, and I bring on fellow friends or podcasters, and we talk about it, see if we're friends by the end of the movie. occasionally I do come around on the movie a little bit. I go into it really not liking it, and then, the guests kind of talk about it and like how they view it, and sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's still bad, but I can see the merit in it. So there are a lot of fun episodes to do. We don't go into the plot because I already do a solo episode on that, so we just talk about all the fun stuff and we go off course, all that kind of stuff. Two dishonorable mentions this year were Bull Shark and Shark Girl. Bull Shark was just a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, pretty obvious, but no, it's just the fact that it's a trilogy now and I have to cover 2 more movies in this series, and the director is making a new trilogy of movies called Lone Star Shark. Bull Shark takes place in Texas. Lone Star Shark, I'm assuming, also takes place in Texas. I feel like he's just remaking his own trilogy, but I'll reserve judgment until I actually see it. But the first one was just awful. The CGI shark that they used was like Adobe stock footage that they bought and then just, threw it into some scenes. I don't know. It was very bizarre. I did not care for it one bit. And again, that's another one that will probably end up on C6 Cinema this or next year or not, I don't know, but at some point it will. And Shark Girl, I had a lot of hope for this movie. I like the concept of it. Like, you've got these influencers, and then she gets bitten by a shark and then turns into a shark girl. It's almost like a zombie thing. I'm like, that is really fucking cool. But then, like, they tease so many, like, different scenes with it, and, like, they tease, like, this whole, like, biting the guy's dick off, and then they don't follow through with it. But luckily, we do get that in one of my favorite movies of the year, which is going to bring us into my top 3 of 2024. Chum. We get somebody, a shark, biting or ripping a dude's dick off with a little baby shark in the pants. You got to watch the movie. Go listen to the episode on it. But it is an absolute blast. I think they were doing a riff on The Last of Us, from my understanding. I haven't played the games. I haven't seen the show yet. It's on the list. But originally, when this was on the Indiegogo or GoFundMe, Kickstarter, whatever, it was called The Last of Sharks. So I think they were doing a play on The Last of Us. I highly doubt that it sticks too close to that storyline, obviously. I feel like that's just more of a gimmick to kind of get it funded or whatever. However, that being said, the movie is a fucking blast. All of the sharks are puppet sharks. Like, I'm pretty sure you can buy these things off Amazon. I love it. It's just a lot of fun. The cinematography was amazing, which was crazy. I found the editing to be weird because I remember there's a few scenes where I'm just like, I feel like they filmed these at different times, and like maybe there was another scene there or something. But other than that, though, the whole movie is just so much fun. It should still be on Tubi, so I actually recommend going and watching that one because I had an absolute blast with that one. The next one I want to talk about is Graveyard Shark, which also came out in 2024. I believe Chum came out in 2024, and the last movie on the list also came out this year, which is, yeah, like the 3 favorite all came out this year, like the ones that I watched. Yeah, which is pretty crazy, actually. But anyways, back to Graveyard Shark. So the production company, Mad Angel Films, sent me a screener for this, which I was super excited about. It's the first Sharksploitation movie I've been sent to screener for. I've been sent to screener for like a couple of other movies and short films, which is great. I always support that. Even if you have a non-aquatic movie you want me to take a look at, I am more than happy to do that because I love supporting indie horror and all of that. And I might not necessarily do like a Spotify, Apple podcast, but I might just do a YouTube video for it. So I'll still do something for it. So if you have something you want me to look at and actually do an honest review on, send it on over. I'm good with that. But Graveyard Shark is so much fun. We have like 99.9% practical effects. I think I can remember one CGI shot in the whole thing. Maybe there was like 1 or 2 touch-up things that I didn't notice, but other than that, the shark suit is practical. It's just a guy in like this like hammerhead shark, and he's all bulky. Again, this is another one that you have to go and watch. I'm pretty sure you can rent it on Amazon Prime. It's worth it to me. Maybe it's going to come to Tubi someday. I'm not sure. But definitely keep an eye out for it when you can because it is a lot of fun. And I didn't even... Usually when I do the episodes, I go like really in depth into the plot. Probably too much for my own good. But that one I intentionally left some stuff out to leave surprises for people to watch it because it's just so much fun. The actors in it were great. I want to say her name is Stephanie something. I can't remember. Stephanie Ward. I don't know. She was great in it, as was everybody else, but she really stood out. She was really funny. And then she also like could just like turn that funny off and go into like something really dramatic, which like still kind of played into the comedy, but it was also like actually really good. So definitely check that movie out. It was so much fun, and they're working on another movie right now, like a some sort of beach massacre or pirate movie, some other aquatic type horror. So I'm definitely going to be checking that one out whenever it becomes available because I'm pretty excited for that one too. The last one I want to talk about is actually a movie that a lot of people seem to hate. I don't know if it's because it was a foreign film. I don't know if it's because people wanted it to be more bonkers or it was too bonkers. I don't know. But I'm talking about Under Paris from 2024, directed by Xavier Gens. God damn it. I pronounced it right in the episode because I looked it up. Now I can't remember. But he's the guy who did Frontiers, and he's not, he's done that whole like French extreme horror movement. So I guess maybe some people probably watched it with dubbed audio instead of the original French language audio, which depending on certain movies, like I don't mind watching some dubbed stuff, again, depending on what it is, but for a movie like that, I don't know, I feel like I need to be in it a little bit more, so I need like the original actors' voices and everything. So again, I don't know. Like, it seemed a lot of people were very divided on this movie. I thought it was a blast. Spoiler alerts, I'm going to get into the ending, so if you want to watch it, do that. Otherwise, I'm spoiling it right now. But the ending, like, the sharks basically take over the world, more or less. And there's apparently a sequel coming out in 2026, probably. Very excited about that. Very curious to see where they're going to take that. And on that episode, we had Joe Lascola from Movie Dumpster. So thanks so much to Joe for coming onto that episode. I've been listening to Movie Dumpster for quite a while. They're one of the reasons I got into podcasting. Them and Horror Movie Night were the two big ones that really got me into this. So yeah, it was great having Joe on, and we both seem to have kind of the same feelings on this movie. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of ridiculous things. The cinematography was great. So yeah, that's definitely one worth checking out for sure. And we had a lot of other great guests on this year, but before I get into that, I will do a couple of honorable mentions for movies I really enjoyed this year. Super Shark, directed by Fred Olen Ray, ridiculous CGI, big titty bikini babes, like it's just a whole lot of fun. It's from 2011, so it's like right in that sweet area where like Sci-Fi Channel and like the Asylum were just doing some like wild shit. I had a lot of fun with that one. I highly recommend checking out that one if you can. I believe it's on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that's where I watched it. If it is, I'll try and leave links for all that stuff in the descriptions, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, whatever. Yeah, definitely check that one out. It's just a lot of fun. It's just dumb shark nonsense about a super shark. It's just really big. And then the next one I want to mention, which honestly, I probably could put this in my top favorite of the year as well. It was really tough to pick like just the top three, but Atomic Shark was so much fun. And they had like a rap music video to accompany the movie as well, which just kind of just played into it for me. I don't know, I really liked it. The whole concept was fun. It was directed by Griff First, who did Ghost Shark, which is another absolute favorite of mine. Probably one of my top three favorites from last year that I reviewed. So make sure you go check that one out too. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, Atomic Shark is it's a blast. It's just a shark that's gone nuclear and, goes around killing people, and people get radiation poisoning and just other dumb nonsense. It's a lot of fun. Like, it's one of those movies that's, again, like kind of in that sweet spot of the kind of ridiculous things that I'm looking for in these movies. Because, again, I like the serious movies like Jaws, obviously, which we'll get into that a little bit more, or, The Shallows, The Reef, those kind of movies. I love that. I love the realism and, the real danger, and yeah, that's a lot of fun. But I also like taking it to the extreme side, which is why you see a lot of my top favorites are Graveyard Shark and Chum. Under Paris, it's ridiculous, but I also feel like somehow it's a little bit more grounded in reality, so to speak. Like, it feels more believable than the other two, but still pushes it like that ridiculous boundary, kind of like Deep Blue Sea did. Anyways, before I continue rambling on, let's get into some of the awesome guests that we had on the podcast this year. So the first guest I had on was for the very first episode of C6 Cinema, where I talked about Shark Exorcist again, but this time with bad movies, worse people. Jack Whitney and Derek are awesome people, despite what their podcast name says, but they're a lot of fun, very funny people. We've done three or four episodes together now. I think I've done 3 on theirs and 1 on mine. We're definitely going to be doing Shark Exorcist 2, Unholy Waters. It's not even going to be a C6 Cinema episode. I'm just going to bring them on for a regular episode because we're kind of on this journey now. And this is one of those movies where they sort of talked me into liking it a little bit more than I did before. For the longest time, this was on like my top 10, like, fuck this movie, I'm never watching it again. And yet somehow I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now. But yeah, they made some good points, and I think also like talking to them about it and seeing how much they enjoyed it kind of made me enjoy it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I think that episode went really well for being the first C6 Cinema episode and my first guest episode that I did. So yeah, I highly recommend checking them out, checking that episode out. And again, you can find all their links probably down below and on those episodes. The next guest I had was author Faith Roswell, and she did a book called Movie Monsters of the Deep, which you can buy on Amazon, and there's some UK bookstore. Again, those links will be down below. But yeah, we went into a lot of talk about Jaws, the Loch Ness Monster, and just her whole reason for writing this book. And I'm hoping that maybe she's doing a sequel that's going to be more focused on like monsters on land sort of thing. But yeah, she also introduced like a lot of different creatures and facts that I didn't know about before. So that was a lot of fun. That was a great episode. I highly recommend listening to that as well. She goes into some of the history of like the Loch Ness Monster and how, you know, some guy went to great lengths to make people believe that it was real, knowing full well that it wasn't. Really, really funny stuff, so make sure you go check that episode out too. And then the next guests I had were the Evil Deaths. So we had Brett and Josh from the Evil Deaths podcast, and we did 90210 Shark Attack. And that was definitely a movie I still hate. I think we all kind of agreed that it was just pretty bad. And it had Donna Wilkes from Jaws 2 in it, which was surprising. But yeah, again, we had an awesome time talking about that. And I also went on to their show, I believe it was this year, and talked about Black Sheep. I can't remember if it was this year or the year before, to be honest. But either way, I went on their show. We talked about Black Sheep. That was a lot of fun, too. So make sure, again, you go and check out that episode. But yeah, we just ripped this movie a brand new asshole, I think, because there's not much to like about this movie. I'm pretty sure my original episode on it starts with me saying, like, fuck this movie. Because there's barely any shark, there's like barely any blood, they reuse the same shots, and again, some of these things are par for the course, and sometimes I really enjoy them. And then sometimes some director rents a house and just films a bunch of chicks in bikinis, and he's like, yeah, I'm making a shark movie, wink wink. Ugh. But yeah, that was the episode I did with the Evil Deaths, so make sure you go check out their podcast. They review movies and talk about their favorite deaths, but they also just kind of go off the rails all the time, just kind of talk about whatever. It's honestly just a lot of fun to listen to. It's kind of like you're just hanging out in a room with some buddies chatting about horror and all kinds of other bullshit, so make sure you check them out. And then right after that, I had Joe Lascola on from Movie Dumpster, as I said, and we did Under Paris. Like I talked about, we had a great time with that movie. It was great having Joe on. Hopefully next year I'll be able to go on to their show. Maybe next year, maybe the year after, don't know. Like, everybody's schedule is always up in the air, and, you know, they plan pretty far ahead in advance. And this year is also going to be busy for me. There's a lot going on, too, as far as the podcast goes. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll work something out. But, yeah, they're a great couple of guys. They've been very supportive. So yeah, again, check out Movie Dumpster. They do pretty in-depth conversation about the movies, and it's also just a lot of fun. I even recommend just starting like right from the first episode and listening on, because they have a lot of like continuing jokes that kind of start from the beginning, which they like never really intended to do, but they kind of just took off onto this own thing. And now they have like the Movie Dumpster universe, where they kind of like interconnect all the movies that they review in like really funny ways. So yeah, make sure you go check that out. Again, just a lot of fun. And then next up, we did Seasick Cinema again, and this time I checked out Jaws in Japan with Josh from the Super Scary podcast. Again, a god-awful movie. The shark shows up at the very, very end for reasons I'm still unsure about. The concept of this movie was actually really cool when Josh and I kind of broke it down. It's like, okay, these criminals are luring these girls and like feeding them to a shark, which in concept sounds great. Very poorly executed, and also it's mostly known as Psycho Shark, I think. But a lot of the posters say Jaws in Japan because they tried to capitalize on that. I'm pretty sure Universal's like stopped using those posters, but I mean they're on the internet; it's everywhere. So that's how I associate this movie. I think it's kind of funny that movies, even this was from 2009. But when you think of this, you really think of like the 80s and like Italian movies just stealing like, oh yeah, this is the Evil Dead 7. And it's like, what? Or hey, this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 25 and blah. Oh, and this is Jaws 5, aka Cruel Jaws, But in 2009 to still be doing that, incredible. I guess that's also kind of a tough one, right? Because Jaws it's just, we all have jaws. I've got a jaw, you have a jaw. So I don't, like, maybe that was kind of their thinking, like, that they could get away with it. But I mean, putting a shark on there is pretty, like, yeah, definitely coming on to copyright infringement, I guess. But yeah, I don't recommend watching this movie. Go listen to Josh and I talk about it. You probably don't even need to listen to my solo episode on it. Just listen to Josh and I talk about it. And speaking of Jaws, the reason I had him on for that is because I went on to his podcast and we talked about Jaws from 1975. It was his first time watching it, and I think he enjoyed it for the most part. Obviously, he doesn't have the same kind of feelings for it that most people do who saw it when they were like 8 years old, like I did, but still appreciate it for what it is, and I think it's hard not to. Again, we'll be talking more about Jaws later. And then the next guest I had was BP from Let's Talk Horror. I went onto his podcast and we talked about Psycho Goreman, which was a lot of fun. We both love that movie. Tons of practical effects in there. So that was a lot of fun. What we didn't have fun doing was we had fun talking about Deep Fear from 2023. We didn't have fun watching it. And that was probably my second or third time, because sometimes I'll watch a movie, take all my notes, and then I'll watch it again to kind of focus on it a little bit more without having to worry about taking notes. So sometimes I see these movies 2 or 3 times. So I may have seen this one 3 times because I would have rewatched it for this episode. And yeah, rewatching it again, I think in my initial episode I sort of defended the movie a little bit because I'm like, maybe the actress, English isn't her first language, so maybe that language barrier was coming across in the acting. But then rewatching it, I'm like, no, she's just bad, and this movie's bad. Everything about it is bad. Like, it's a completely unoriginal storyline, and I think we're going to see something similar, unfortunately, with Into the Deep with Scout Taylor Compton. Not that she's a bad actor. I really liked her as Laurie in Halloween remake, but the plot of the story just seems very dull to me because it seems exactly like this one. So they really got to do something to separate themselves from movies like this, because that plot line's been done before. So hopefully they give us something a little bit different. Judging by the trailer, there didn't really seem to be offering anything different. The shark looks okay. Like, it's not bad, but it's also not, like, I wasn't super impressed by it. So again, I'll hold out judgment for that. But yeah, as I said, BP and I, again, just kind of ripped this movie a new one because there wasn't really much going on, Again, make sure you go check out his podcast, Let's Talk Horror channel. He's got a YouTube channel as well. Make sure you subscribe to that. He does this all himself too, which I do, so I can definitely appreciate the amount of work that goes into it. I mean, everybody I work with puts a lot of work into it. I shouldn't say that it's just him, but him and I have talked a lot about a lot of the challenges we both have. Both dealing with like mental health issues and, things like that. And again, I'm sure a lot of other people are as well. But yeah, make sure you go check out his channel. He talks everything horror. He's done a lot of great episodes and talked about a lot of great movies. I believe he just did Gremlins not too long ago. So yeah, again, check out his episodes. And then immediately following that episode, we did Deep Blue Sea with B Action, and man, that was a blast. We did the episode's over 2 hours. I mostly just did it uncut because I was having computer issues at the time. But I mean, our conversation was actually just so much fun too that I'm just like, I'm just gonna kind of let this sit. I mean, I think I maybe trimmed a little bit at the beginning and end, but otherwise it's pretty much completely uncut, the whole thing. And also this year too, I don't think the first couple of episodes were video episodes, but the rest of this year, everything I've done is also up on YouTube too, if you're an audio listener. And I'm also doing a lot of trailer reacts on there too, and I'm going to be doing some other new stuff that maybe I'll talk about at the end of the show. But yeah, I had Charlie and Dustin from B Action, also from Give Me Back My Action and Horror Movies, and the Flicks and Friends podcast. Make sure you go check out all three of those because they are so much fun to listen to. But yeah, we had an awesome time talking about this movie in particular. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think Dustin said he liked this one better than Jaws, which honestly, between Deep Blue Sea and Jaws, like when people say like, oh, Deep Blue Sea is like kind of my favorite a little bit more, like I get it. Like it's a great time. It's ridiculous. It's a lot of fun, but it still holds up. Like a lot of the stuff in this movie still holds up today. And Arrow just announced that they're doing a 4K release of Deep Blue Sea in March. I mean, you missed the 25th anniversary by like 7 months, but I guess better late than never. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Hopefully I can check that out at some point because it'd be nice to see a really good transfer of this movie. I have it on Blu-ray. There's like the 3-pack because yes, in case you didn't know, they did Deep Blue Sea 2 and 3. I also covered the sequel at the beginning of the year, and I'll be covering the sequel, the third one, in January. Spoiler. Yeah, we're going to be doing Attack of the Sequels. Little hint to the future there. Yeah, we're going to do Attack of the Sequels again. So Deep Blue Sea 3 will be one of the first episodes of the year. And yeah, we took a really good look at Deep Blue Sea. We went deep into the plot. We also noticed like a lot of the Jaws references and how there was even like some Jaws 3 references in there, maybe. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I think Dustin had a counter going on how many Jaws references there were. So again, make sure you check out that episode, and it's also on YouTube as well. And that was all the guests that I had on my show, but I was also very lucky to go on a lot of shows this year. I think I did 12 guest episodes this year, so that's almost like an episode a month, which is awesome. Like I'm really grateful for everybody who's had me on their show and who has come onto my show. Yeah, it's just really great to talk to people about movies and whatnot. Kind of hopefully, introduce each other's fans to our podcast, hopefully gain a bigger following and just a bigger fan base, friend group, whatever. As always, all of these episodes where I'm a guest on, if you go to bucketofchumpodcast.com and you go to appearances, there's a whole list of all of the episodes I've ever been a guest on last year and this year. So yeah, make sure you check that out if you want to, a direct link to them. But I'm going to go over the people that I was lucky enough to go onto their podcast. I'll probably try and do a quick little blurb because, again, there's like 12 I got to talk about here. But yeah, again, thank you so much to everybody who had me on and to everybody who came on. I hope to work with these people again. We're going to try and get to as many of these people next year as well. There's definitely a few favors I owe for people having me on their show, so hopefully we can rectify that this year. And these are in no particular order. I don't remember whose podcast I was on first or whatever. Honestly, the year's kind of a blur. I can't fucking believe it's December right now. Jesus Christ. So first up, Our Life in Horror. I went on to their YouTube channel where we did a live stream and talked about Deep Blue Sea for the 25th anniversary. I was also supposed to go on Dissect that film, or I was asked to, but I was already doing this episode and then my own episode. And I was like, I don't really want to do 3 episodes on the same thing per se. But, again, thanks to Dissect That Film for inviting me on to talk about this. Our Life in Horror beat you to it, though, so sorry. But, yeah, Brendan and Sam are an awesome couple. They are also from Ontario, I believe, which is super cool. Shout out to some Canadian podcasters and YouTubers. But yeah, we had a great time talking about the movie, and I think, for the most part, we all really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to work with them again. I think I'm going to bring them on to talk about Sharknado at some point. I think they showed some interest in that one. So hopefully next year we can talk about Sharknado, work that into the schedule, because I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then next up, Delight in Fright. I went on with Luna and Kat, and we talked about Under Paris. I did technically 2 episodes on Under Paris. But yeah, we had a great time talking about that, and we definitely all had kind of different points of view on the movie too. Like one of them liked a character that I really didn't like, Mika, the character name. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to have people who can have opposing views, but like not turn into an argument. So that's what I like about pretty much, I would say, all the podcasts that I've been on. Like, we don't always agree on everything, but like we still have fun talking about it and whatnot. So yeah, again, go and check them out. They're up on YouTube, and they're checking out a lot of great horror movies. So make sure you give them a listen and watch. And then next up, I went on a YouTube channel and a podcast called Studio Sinister, and it was a live stream murder mystery, and I played a scientist surfer dude. That was a lot of fun. There was a lot of people there. Everybody was in character, and it was like all 80s themed. I kind of went off the walls with it a little bit, so make sure you go check that out, because that was a lot of fun. Hopefully we get to do it again at some point. Again, with scheduling, it's really hard to try and work all this stuff into the schedule, but hopefully get to work with them again in the future, because that was a lot of fun. And then next up is Red River Horror Podcast, and I went on there. Steve Alton, the author of the Meg books, was also on the episode. We kind of talked about the Meg a little bit, and Jaws and Deep Blue Sea and all that. Obviously mostly about the Meg. And I believe Steve threatened to write me into a book and kill my character off because I wasn't a fan of the Meg movie, which honestly would be amazing. Could you imagine like my character being in a fucking book killed off? That'd be awesome. I mean, no, don't do that. No, seriously, do that. That would be awesome. I would fucking love that. But yeah, that was a great time too. We had a lot of fun talking about that. Joe and Eddie are a great couple of guys, and when I was having trouble getting a new computer going this year and whatnot, Eddie was nice enough to donate some money, which I didn't end up needing, but I do really appreciate the gesture. And then he even asked me to write an article for their website on Deep Blue Sea for the 25th anniversary. So yeah, make sure you go check out their website too. I have an article up there that you can read, just kind of going over the 25th anniversary. So if you don't want to listen to a 2-hour episode on it, you can just go read an article about it. But yeah, as I said, Joe and Eddie are great guys, and again, hoping to have them on the podcast, probably for a C6 Cinema episode, because I think that'd be a blast. And next up, I was on this podcast for 2 episodes, Dissect That Film. We talked about Komodo, and I believe it was Curse of the Komodo, if I remember correctly. That was a lot of fun. 2 movies that I really didn't know much about, very different from each other, but both fun in their own ways, which was awesome. So yeah, we had a lot of fun talking about that. Brett is a huge Jaws fan. I think it's his favorite movie. So next year, we got to do something with Jaws. We're going to do something Jaws related. And again, we're going to be talking more about that at the end of the episode. I know I keep saying that, but we'll get there. I still got a few more people to go through here. But yeah, make sure you check out Brett, Dan, and Angela on Dissect That Film. Again, they have a YouTube channel as well. They go in depth into the plot and all that of the movies, go into some fun trivia and things like that. Just a lot of fun, witty banter, and yeah, honestly, every time I've been on, it's been a lot of fun. So I can't wait to do more episodes. And again, talk about Jaws or something Jaws related. And I mentioned this one earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. The Evil Deaths. We talked about Black Sheep. I think it's from 2006. I'm a big fan of that movie. I wouldn't say a big fan, but I really enjoy that movie. It's about killer fucking sheep, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah, make sure you go and check them out. Like I said, just a lot of fun listening to them. When you go on to, like, it's just such a relaxed atmosphere. Like, you're just sitting there having a conversation, and somehow this turns into like a really fun podcast to listen to without even like really thinking about it. So yeah, again, go check them out. We had a lot of fun. Hopefully I can bring them back on this year. Again, everybody's always so busy. I get busy or my life explodes. But yeah, hopefully hopefully we get them back on and do some more fucking shenanigans. And then next up is Bummer House. So I actually think this was one of the first episodes I was on this year, if I remember correctly, because I think the movie came out in January. We talked about Night Swim. Now, if you haven't seen Night Swim, it's about a haunted swimming pool. Yeah, so the movie stars Wyatt Russell, and it's not a good movie, but it's also one of those things where like you kind of have to see it to just be like, wow, they really did that. They really made this and like took this as seriously as they did. It's incredible. We had a good time talking about that. I was on their show last year too. We talked about a movie called Sweetheart, which ended up kind of being like a shark movie from Blumhouse. But yeah, go check out that episode and check out that movie too. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, again, I'm hoping to have them on the show at some point. I haven't had them on yet, but I'll definitely bring them on for something absolutely ridiculous, I think, for making me watch Night Swim again. Because I'd already seen the movie, and then like I think a few weeks later, like, hey, you want to talk about it? And I was like, oh yeah. And I have a really bad memory for the most part. Like I need to see a movie a few times before I like really remember it. So I had to rewatch it again. But again, it's not horrible, but it's just kind of like a what the fuck did they do this for movie. But yeah, again, I had a blast, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get them on the show this year. And I mentioned before when we had Bad Movies, Worst People on, I've been on their show 3 times now, I think. Yeah, because we talked about Santa Jaws for Christmas last year, which was a lot of fun. And before that, we talked about Night of the Sharks for their tribute month to Treat Williams. Again, not a great movie. I don't think all 4 of us had any idea what was going on in there. But again, I had a great time with them, and we're going to be talking about Shark Exorcist 2 at some point. But after that, an episode that just came out a couple months ago, or not even a couple months ago, I think a couple of weeks ago, Miami Connection. I'm a huge fan of that movie, so it was a lot of fun to talk about that. It was an absolute blast. I will talk about that movie any day of the week. And as I said before, I was on Let's Talk Horror with BP, and we talked about Psycho Goreman. Absolute blast of a time. We both have a lot of love for that movie and all the filmmakers involved. And if I remember correctly, it was filmed in Hamilton, Ontario, which is 4 or 5 hours from where I am, in Canada. Yeah, they make movies here in Canada. Speaking of being in Canada, it is fucking cold right now. It's like minus 16 degrees Celsius, minus 18 last time I checked or something like that. And living in the basement now is just, it's so fucking cold. I am so over winter and fucking Canada. God damn it. And anyways, back to the show. The next podcast, again, I have been on a couple of times. That's with the Horrorcraft podcast, and this year we talked about the Bermuda Tentacles. Absolutely horrible movie. I don't think any of us really enjoyed it. Great group of ladies and patrons of the show, so thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And again, we're going to have them on in 2025, hopefully, for an episode of C6 Cinema. Maybe at some point I'll bring them on to watch a good movie, since we watched Bermuda Tentacles before. But yeah, I was also on their show last year, and we talked about Sharkula in October, so that was fun too. So make sure you go check out those 2 episodes and look out for them on the show this year, or this year. When I say this year, I mean 2025. I'm just pretending it's 2025. Maybe I released this episode late and it comes out in 2025. I don't really know. And then the last 2 kind of bundle into one. Give me back my action and horror movies. We talked about Leviathan, which was an absolute blast. Alien ripoff. Such a good movie, Peter Weller. And then I also went on to their sort of side podcast, if you want to call it that, B Action, and we talked about Hands of Steel, an Italian Terminator wannabe ripoff, kind of, sort of. Yeah, bonkers movie. I have it on Blu-ray. We had a great time talking about that. So again, make sure you go check out all of those episodes too. Make sure you give them a follow and rating and all that too, because yeah, everybody has been so great having me on their show and agreeing to come onto my show and all of that. So show them some support too. Let's spread the love around. It's the time of year for it. Do it any time of year. I don't care. If you're listening to this in February, show some love then. Well, it makes more sense because that's Valentine's month. So fuck yeah. So it doesn't matter. Whatever month you're listening to this in, whatever year you're listening to this in, make sure you go and show some of these fellow podcasters some love and support and check them out. Maybe you'll find something you like. I don't know. And before we get into the last kind of bit of this episode, I want to do a huge shout out and thank you to director Joe Lamb. He's the director of this upcoming horror movie called The Fetus, which stars Bill Moseley and Laura Laverna from Terrifier fame, of course. My laptop died this year, and I was basically without a computer to continue doing this podcast, and he just outright bought me a new PC. So I wouldn't even be able to do this right now without him. So thank you, Joe, so much. And I really look forward to The Fetus coming out. I should be getting a copy in February, I think, because I contributed to the Kickstarter. So I think I'll probably actually do a full review on that movie. Probably something spoiler-free if the movie's not actually out yet. And I'll kind of just give my thoughts on it. But I do want to do kind of like an in-depth review on that. It will be an honest review. Just because Joe, bought me a PC doesn't mean that he's buying, me to do a review or something like that. Because he sent me the trailer earlier in the year to do a trailer reaction to, and I did, and I put it up on the YouTube channel, and he's just been really supportive ever since. All around great guy, so make sure you follow The Fetus Film and him on Instagram. Again, all of those links are going to be down below. I'm really looking forward to the movie. I mean, I was also part of a Zoom meeting that they did for some of the backers of the film, and we got to watch the first, I think, like 10 minutes of the movie, and it's something to look out for. I'm very excited about it. A lot of practical effects. It seems like a very well planned and thought out movie, so I can't wait to see it. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of creature effects and things like that. And yeah, as I've mentioned, this year has been especially challenging, of like not just with personal stuff, but like even on the podcast there's challenges doing certain things, and there were a lot of times I really felt like giving up, throwing in the towel, and just not wanting to do this anymore. But yeah, if you didn't know, I built this little sound booth because my partner and I, we had to move from our apartment because there was a lot of crime in our neighborhood. Our apartment started flooding twice, and the building we were living in was just awful, as was the company that owned the building. But that's okay. We'll be seeing them at the landlord-tenant board in a couple of months. That should be fun. So yeah, there was definitely a short period of time where I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to even like just physically continue with the podcast, because I didn't think I was going to have a space to record in, because I couldn't do it out in the open where we're living now for various reasons, which I won't get fully into on here. Maybe I'll do a Patreon something, maybe if it's just a free tier to go into it more. I just don't want to get into it on YouTube or the Spotify or whatever. But yeah, I built this fucking sound booth, which, man, that's, something to be proud of. I don't give myself credit a lot, or fucking hardly ever, but I mean, like, I built this fucking thing so I could talk about shark movies and other dumb shit. I mean, I'm really excited about that. I don't know. It's I feel some like renewed hope. This year has been really challenging, but then when I started looking through the guests that I had on and some of the episodes I was a guest on, and Movie Dumpster just did their 2023 wrap up, and as I said before, they've been super supportive. So I was like, kind of taking a look back, and yeah, there was a lot of dumb shit in 2024. Probably one of the worst years of my life. I've been saying that probably for the last 3 years, because each year I'm just like, well, can't be worse than last year. And then the universe is like, well, hold my fucking beer. And you know what? I'm still here. I'm still doing this. We have a roof over our heads. We still have our health, hopefully, anyways, at least as far as I know. I mean, I also found out I have ADHD. I went to a couple of doctors and whatnot, so that's been a challenge this year too. It's been challenging trying to find work, and so this is kind of the only thing keeping me going right now. And yeah, as I said, just in the last couple of like days or so, I've been feeling like not super great. And then I started looking through some of this stuff, and I was like, you know what? Fuck. 2024 was all right for the podcast. Everything else was shit. Okay, a lot of stuff in personal life was shit. Some stuff was good. Some of it was fine. But yeah, as far as the podcast went, I'm like, you know what? I did a lot of really good episodes this year. I feel like I really grew the podcast, grew the show a little bit. And I originally only set out to do like 3 guest episodes. I was like, yeah, this year, I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to do 3 guest episodes, and anything else would be bonus. And then I ended up doing, can't remember how many I listed off, but I had a lot of great people on, and I was on a lot of great shows. And I think that's something that should be celebrated. I think that's fucking happy, and I'm going to be happy about that. I'm not going to look back on this year of the podcast as being bad, because honestly it wasn't. I watched some stupid movies, which is what I'm here for, and I also watched some great movies, which is also what I'm here for, and met a lot of new people, not in person, granted. Most of you, or I'd say 99% of you, I know online, but yeah, I've met a lot of really great and supportive people, and honestly, everybody who has come onto the show, had me on their show, has really helped keep me going. So thank all of you so much for that. But also thank everybody who's just listening right now. If you just have this on in your car while you're driving, if you're watching this on YouTube in the background, thank you. Honestly, all of those likes, all of those listens and downloads, it keeps me going. I have ADHD, so I need that fucking dopamine hit, right? But no, honestly, I really, really appreciate it. And the fact that, people are still listening to me talk about dumb fucking shark movies is amazing. I mean, I feel like a podcast like this and someone like me, this could have just ended up like not every other, sorry, but like the statistic that like most podcasts quit after a year or something, it's like 50%. I mean, we're going into year 3. This was year 2 of Bucket of Chum 2024. We're going into year 3. And year 3 is going to be a big year, because we are going to be doing a lot of stuff on Jaws. Yes, I'm finally going to fucking talk about Jaws. So the original Jaws turns 50 in 2025. So there's going to be at least one episode every month. It might be on the main feed, it might be on Patreon, but at least one. Some months there's going to be multiple. It'll be Jaws or Jaws related. So we might do like a book to movie comparison episode, and then I have a whole list of movies, and you've maybe seen it teased on Instagram or Patreon. I'm going to cover like a bunch of movies that are basically Jaws ripoffs. And we're going to celebrate Jaws like that to all of the movies that it inspired, or all of the movies that tried to, ride the coattails of its success. And yeah, we're going to do a lot of stuff like that. We're going to have some guests on, hopefully. As I said, Brett from Dissect That Film, it's his favorite movie, so I'm sure we got to do something. What every episode is going to be, I don't know exactly. I have a lot of episodes planned, but I might also throw some more in there, because I do want to do a lot more C6 Cinema episodes, because those are just a lot of fun and like kind of easy episodes to do, more or less. Like, there's not a whole lot of like prep time I need to do for them or anything. It's just kind of more casual, so I really like doing those. And then hopefully I'm going to be doing some more stuff with the Patreon, and again, there will be some Jaws related stuff there too. And on the YouTube channel, I'm hoping to do a couple of more maybe little side shows. So right now I'm doing a lot of like trailer reacts, or sometimes, as I said, if indie filmmakers send me their shorts or feature-length movies, I'll do like a short review on them. What I want to start doing is maybe like little side shows that are like just on YouTube. So I was actually thinking I might kind of do like a true aquatic, maybe not true crime, but like true aquatic horror stories sort of thing. See if we can find some stuff on Reddit, or get people to submit stuff, and yeah, kind of do some videos like that. Just kind of expand the horizons a little bit, talk about a little bit more stuff, and, dip our toes into something a little bit different. And also, don't forget to check out the Oddly Dark YouTube channel. A good friend of mine, Patreon, and all around good dude, Benji Irwin. Him and Kyle Dunbar do little horror shorts on YouTube. I went to film school with them years ago, and they've been really supportive, and I'm trying to support their channel back, and you might see a little, I don't know, maybe a little Bucket of Chum Easter egg in one of their upcoming shorts. So yeah, make sure you go follow their YouTube channel, give them a like, subscribe, all that stuff. They're up and coming filmmakers, so I would honestly keep an eye out for them. And if you want to work with them, reach out to them. They're really good guys. And I'm really excited to see what they do this year. Just this month, Arrow released The Last Video Store on Blu-ray, and Benji was the cinematographer on that. I haven't seen the movie yet. Hopefully soon, though. I'm really looking forward to it because it sounds like an absolute blast. It's a throwback to like 80s slashers and the love of the video store, all that stuff that's like near and dear to my heart. So definitely check that out. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think that's all I've got for right now. There might be a few other things in the works. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, again, I just want to say thank you to everybody listening, everybody who's been on the show, and to the patrons who support me on Patreon. I'm going to start doing a list of people's names at the end of the video episodes, hopefully. I want to start doing more of that kind of stuff, doing more shout-outs. I know I keep saying I want to do that, and I get really bad at it. I got to start writing this shit down, but yeah. Yeah, hopefully the future is bright. Hopefully next year is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we do a lot of great things. And I hope you guys continue with me on this journey as I sit here in the bucket. It's what I call this little room, hut, tent. It's not a tent, but this is what I call this little thing. It's the bucket. So yeah, join me in the bucket. I've been your host, Captain Steve, and if this has been your sort of thing, if you like weird, dumb shark movies, or you like seeing some weird, dumb guy talk about them, make sure you hit like, subscribe, maybe give the show a rating, 5 stars, maybe? I don't know, do what you want. But anyways, I've been your host, Captain Steve, and I'll see you guys next year for even more Bucket of Chum.